The national average for annual salary increases is between 3 and 5% here in the United States. That means that if you had a job and you were starting at $70,000, you could expect to roughly reach $100,000 per year within an 8.5-year period of time. That is a long time. Now, I know I don't have time for that, and I would assume you don't have time for that either, but the good news is that there is actually a much better way to get a 30% pay increase rather than waiting 8.5 years at your salaried job, and that is through side hustles. Side hustles are, in my opinion, the best way to increase your income in a relatively short period of time. You can in some cases double, if not triple, if not quadruple your income in a matter of years without having to go to your boss and get a raise, without having to switch jobs, and without having to change career paths altogether. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down 5 side hustles that you've never heard of that you can use in order to make an extra $100 per day. These are all side hustles that I've never talked about on this channel. They're all ones that are pretty easy to start up, require a minimal to no upfront investment, and there are ones that you can get started immediately today in 2022. So let's get started. Now, side hustles are a pretty widely talked about thing here on YouTube. There are dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of videos here on YouTube that talk about side hustles and how to use side hustles in order to make extra money. From freelancing to drop shipping, Airbnb, content creation, and so much more. And I will admit that I myself have made probably dozens of videos on these same topics as well. And though these videos, both ones that I create as well as ones that have been created by other creators, are incredibly helpful in spreading the word on the benefits of the gig economy and side hustles as a whole, they are kind of a double-edged sword, because while they get the word out to people that may need to make extra money, they also in turn oversaturate the side hustles that are being talked about. For example, dropshipping is a widely talked about topic here on YouTube, and at one point in time, dropshipping was incredibly lucrative. But as people started making a lot of money in dropshipping, more and more people tried to start this side hustle, and as a result, it's not nearly as lucrative as it once was. So while it's not hard at all to find side hustle ideas on the internet and on YouTube, it is very difficult to find ones that aren't being widely discussed, and thus ones that aren't oversaturated. But before we dive in with that, if you guys could do me a huge favor, and if you could hit the like button and hit the notification bell for the YouTube algorithm, I would greatly appreciate it. This helps my channel grow because it helps that YouTube know that you guys are enjoying my content, and thus YouTube pushes my content out to a new audience. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, the first side hustle that I want to talk about is trivia night.
Okay, each team will answer 10 questions. The first team to answer the most questions wins.
Now, we've all heard of trivia, whether it be going to a bar or a restaurant and taking part in a trivia night, or going over to a friend's house that is hosting a trivia night at their house. We've all heard of it. I'm sure many of us have actually done it. But did you know that the logistics behind putting on a trivia night, specifically at a restaurant or a bar, are actually quite cumbersome, which is good because that's when you come in. People love trivia night. There is a huge benefit to restaurants and bars hosting a trivia night, but because of the fact that it can be logistically tough, a lot of restaurants opt out of doing this, or alternatively, a lot of restaurants don't even think about hosting a trivia night because they simply don't know how to host one. But that's where you can come in with your trivia night side hustle. Now, what you can do is you could figure out a way to put on trivia nights in local restaurants and bars, and how you would begin this type of side hustle is simply just cold calling local establishments. This is the easy part, but is of course probably the most intimidating as well, because cold calling is never easy. But you approach these restaurants and these bars and you pitch your idea of hosting a trivia night at their establishment. Typically, doing it on days that wouldn't otherwise be busy is a really great place to start. For example, bars and restaurants are busy Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but maybe pitching the idea of hosting a trivia night on a Tuesday or a Monday could be a really great way to go about doing this, because you're not going to have a lot of customers in the bar anyways, so finding any way to attract new customers is of course going to be appealing to them. You would then need to set a flat fee for your service. This is the fee that you get paid for actually putting on the night itself. This is going to account for any supplies that you need to buy, as well as your time that's required to actually put on the event. Whenever I did research for this video, I found that trivia night hosts are charging anywhere from $150 to $250 for any single night. Remember, the fee that the bar pays you is the fee of having you actually hold the event in their space, because this is a huge win for the establishment, because the people that are taking part in the trivia night are going to be buying drinks and food, which is going to in turn make them a lot of money. The next side hustle on this list is a side hustle called drop servicing. Now, you guys may or may not have heard of drop shipping. I actually talked about it a few moments ago earlier on in this video, but drop shipping is basically the business model of selling products that you actually never handle nor have in your possession. You're basically being a third-party person from the factory to the person who actually purchases your product. That's essentially what drop shipping is. Well, drop servicing is a very similar thought process, but rather than selling products, you're actually selling services. So let's say, for example, you start a drop servicing business where you make websites for people and you charge $2,500 to make these websites. Well, with this business model, you yourself actually wouldn't make the website. Instead, you would find somebody to make the website for you, and you would have to make sure that that person charges less than what you're charging. So in this example, let's say you go onto Upwork or Fiverr or Craigslist and you find somebody to make this website for $1,500. Well, in this example, you were paid $2,500, you paid a developer $1,500, which means that you profited $1,000 with selling your websites through a drop servicing business model. It's essentially outsourcing with a fancy name. Now, where this type of side hustle can become incredibly lucrative and it can eventually turn into a legitimate business is if you're somebody that understands marketing. You see, there are a lot of people out there that are talented in their craft, whether that's developing websites, whether it's lawn care, whether it's landscaping, whatever the case is. But just because you're good at a specific craft doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at marketing that craft. And that's where drop servicing or outsourcing can come into play. Because if you're somebody that knows how to market a service successfully, then you can find the person that wants that service completed. You then have to simultaneously find the person who can complete that service, and then your job is essentially connecting the two. Next on this list is a digital archivist, and I know that that sounds super fancy and confusing, but it's actually quite simple. Now, over the last 10 years, we have obviously made a huge shift in the internet, and we spend more and more time on our computers and on the internet than we ever have before. People are buying land online, they're having meetings online, and they are, of course, storing documents, sensitive information, and photos online as well. But what happens to all of those documents and photos and personal belongings that we used to previously store in boxes in our attic or in filing cabinets or in spare rooms? What's happening to those things today in 2022? And the answer is, well, probably nothing. But the answer should be that they really need to be transferred to an online or computer-based database, something like an external hard drive. And that's where you can come in. As a digital archivist, your job would basically be to take these boxes of documents, photos, and sensitive information, to scan these documents, and then to organize them into an external hard drive or some sort of database or Excel document, of course, depending on the types of documents you were scanning. Now, when doing research for this video, I found that the average digital archivist makes about $60,000 per year, but that is of course assuming that you would work for a company as a full-time employee. But I did find a handful of hourly and part-time roles for this type of job, and they were charging anywhere from $20 to $40 per hour. Similarly to some of the other side hustles that I've talked about, I think that a few ways that you can get started with this is simply cold calling local businesses, or alternatively getting in touch with senior living facilities as well, because that is definitely going to be your target audience. The next one on this list is one that is certainly not for everyone, but it is definitely a viable side hustle, and that is selling your hair. There is a company called Hair Salon, and this company is an online company that basically connects people that want to buy hair with people that are wanting to sell hair. But basically how it works is you log on to hairsalon.com and then you can list your hair for sale. The amount that you will make off of this will depend on a number of different factors, including whether your hair has been dyed before, so whether it's considered to be virgin hair or not virgin hair, the color of your hair, the length, as well as the thickness of your hair as well. Now, this obviously isn't a long-term side hustle because it's very much a one and done type of thing. I'd imagine that it's something that you do maybe once every other year, but if you're somebody who's interested in making a quick buck and you have some hair to spare, then I think that this is definitely a viable route to pursue. And last but certainly not least on this list is creating a bounce house rental service. Now, last summer, my dad bought a bounce house for his neighborhood HOA, and ever since he bought a bounce house and I've been exposed to how much bounce houses cost and the different uses of bounce houses, I have been surprised at how often I've since come across ads on Facebook, Craigslist, or Nextdoor of people that are looking to rent bounce houses for their parties, their events, or some sort of neighborhood get-together. Now, bounce houses, whenever you buy them brand new, can be incredibly expensive, like $2,000 to $5,000, sometimes even more for larger houses. But if you're somebody that looks at Facebook and Craigslist or even Nextdoor or some of these other services, you can actually find them secondhand for way, way cheaper, because a lot of times people buy a bounce house, they might use it for a summer or for a couple events, and then they're tired of storing it, so they just want to sell it regardless of the price that they sell it for. It's definitely something that you would need to be patient and keep an eye out for, but it's definitely something that you could buy for a couple of $100s rather than spending a couple of thousands of dollars. With that being said, you guys, I wanted to make this video because I love talking about side hustles, and I think it's incredibly important to refresh this channel with new and exciting ideas to make money in the gig economy. And though not all of these side hustles are the most lucrative way to make extra money, I do believe that all of these side hustles are really great and unique ways to make some extra cash in your spare time. Like always, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.